We like to draw using lines. People who start drawing, you've got this tool with a tiny little point on it. It's really easy to make a line. The problem with drawing noses is that there are almost no lines in the nose. So I'm going to show you the really one line that I draw for the nose, and the rest of it is all shading and shadow. So I actually have brought along today, for the eye we drew with an HB, which is very light, kind of harder lead, but I also brought out a graphite pencil, which is completely made of graphite. There's no wood wrapping around it, and even though this looks pretty fancy as an art supply, it's just a 2B, just like your normal yellow pencil that you used in school. So this is going to get a little bit darker if we're looking at the eye we just drew. Check out how much darker I can get here. But let's dive into the nose, that tricky nose. So I'll just start drawing right here underneath the eye. And the trick about noses when it comes to the line is to really only draw the bottom of the nose and sort of the nostrils around it. What we don't want to do is draw a nose that looks like this. You've probably seen them. This is no. Don't do that. First of all, our left brain is trying to help us as always. It's telling us, hey, you've got two very intense things coming down here. It's like a line, right? But no, you draw that literally and it makes everything look awful. Also, that left brain is telling you the nostrils have a sort of round shape, so it draws two little circles, and then it also tells you your nostrils are round, so you get piggy nose, where we see these perfectly round circles going straight at you. Only if you were looking directly up a person's nose would you see the full roundness of that shape, and even then it doesn't look like a real circle, it's a funny shape. So I'll show you how I draw a nose. I begin with two sort of parentheses type shapes, like so. You do this in the properly positioned place for your facial proportions. Then you can go ahead and draw two little apostrophes. To me, I go to the grammar when I start thinking about drawing the face and nose. So here we have our little apostrophes. So the rounder bit at the bottom is basically where the nostrils open up a little bit more. And everybody has a different shape here. The apostrophe shape is a nice go-to, but sometimes people have just a small line. You can barely see anything but a slit if you're looking directly at them. So do pay attention to variations in the face if you want to get that likeness. Okay, so here I've got my parentheses with my funny commas inside of there. Honestly, if this strange combination of lines and shapes was anywhere else, it might not look like a nose. But if I had it, here next to an eye and in context, we'll read it as a nose. You can be very simple. However, if you want to make it more realistic, let's start shading. So I love my graphite pencil here because I can use the entire side of it to get some good shades. But how do I know where to put them? Well, we've got to remember that the nose is just a complex series of planes. The planes of the face are, you can also think of it almost as the topography of a landscape. Where are the ups and downs? How do the angles and the height of the topography of your face, how do those go up and down, and how does that catch the light? So on a nose, I'm going to switch to a side view real quick. We've got a top plane, which is going to capture light on the bridge of the nose. We have sometimes a little circling nub. I actually have a sharp angle at the tip of my nose, so I would put a different shape, but we'll have this person have a round nose. We've got the roundness of the nostril. Very, very simple breakdown of the essential shapes and planes of the nose here. But how would they capture light? Well, I can get these even more angular if I want to break it down specifically into more planes. But let's say that the light is shining from sort of above and to the side, maybe from over here. That means that this side of the nose, this plane, is going to be in shadow, whereas the highlight is going to hit the bridge of the nose. On this side, we are in darkness, but because this is curving around a sphere, think of how you would draw a sphere. If the light source is coming from here, it's going to be darker on this side, and even if it's still in shadow, add a little extra shadow. Just by going in and blending with my finger, look what just happened. Now we've got kind of a nose thing happening here. And although this particular light source wouldn't lend itself to pointing it out, you'll often get a darker shadow underneath the plane where the bottom of the nose flattens out. Everything under here, basically this plane where your nostrils are, is going to be usually in more shadow unless you have light coming up at a person, which might look. Okay, so we're thinking about how these different planes of the shape of the nose, this funny sort of triangular, rectangular prism coming out of our face, how that's going to work. So now let's shade our sample nose. First of all, I'm imagining that this nose has light coming from just general source above, so that the bottom of the nose here, this plane, is in shadow. Even fuzz it a little bit. And I'm working very, very lightly with my number 2 to shade around the sides of the nostrils. And I'm going to leave a highlight. I'm not going to shade here where the bridge of the nose is, because that will be the area that's catching the most light. So just by softly shading here, I can come back, blend with my finger. You can also use a blending stick if you've got one, which basically looks like a very tightly rolled up piece of paper in a pencil-like shape. So by blending, getting a little more variety, you could also be working with charcoal, willow charcoal or compressed, and that'll give you a ton more contrast with your shading and get you some nice dark darks. I'm gonna keep shading around here to emphasize that these nostrils are curving in. And so I'm getting my basic shapes of the nose. So as you can see, I have, instead of drawing a straight line that literally says, here's the nose, I'm just letting the shadows suggest, almost like I'm carving out of clay. I'm letting the shape of the nose emerge from the page. Now, something that can help make this look even more realistic would be having a little more definition of what's happening here. We've got the septum coming down, and you often get sort of this little, perhaps shading around the tip of the nose before it bounces back out again for the nostrils. And often an even brighter highlight on the tip of the nose. It can sometimes, for some of us, be an oily area, and oil reflects light. So it won't have that sharp, intense reflection as the eyes do, but you'll still get a little something. Okay, so we'll leave that for now as our nose example. This is, of course, for drawing the nose straight on. Everything changes from profile. We'll worry about that another day. So this is the absolute basics of the nose. Hopefully, working with shading instead of trying to draw your whole nose using line will give you some much more successful noses. And check it out, see how it works. And if you have any questions about this, please post those in our group.